The world is a tempest, a ceaseless storm of chaos, uncertainty, and suffering. And yet amidst this turmoil, there exists a path to inner peace, a way to stand unshaken, like a mountain in the face of a hurricane. This path is not for the faint of heart. It is for the warrior, the Stoic warrior. To walk this path is to master your emotions, to rise above the chaos, and to reclaim your mind as your own. This is the way of Stoicism. Stoicism is not a philosophy of passive resignation. It is a philosophy of action, of discipline, of unyielding strength. It is the art of transforming suffering into power, fear into courage, and desire into purpose. The Stoic warrior does not seek to escape emotion. They seek to master it. They understand that emotions are not the enemy. They are the raw material from which greatness is forged. But to wield this material, you must first understand it. You must first master yourself. The Stoics' view of emotion. The inner battlefield. The Stoics believed that emotions are not mere reactions to external events. They are judgments. They are the stories we tell ourselves about what is happening around us. When you feel anger, it is not because someone has wronged you. It is because you have judged their actions as wrong. When you feel fear, it is not because the world is dangerous. It is because you have judged it as such. These judgments are not facts. They are interpretations, and interpretations can be changed. Epictetus, the former slave who became one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it plainly. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. This is the first principle of emotional mastery. You do not control the world, but you do control your mind. The Stoic warrior does not waste energy trying to change what they cannot control. Instead, they focus on what they can control: their thoughts, their judgments, their actions. Consider the legend of Socrates, the father of Western philosophy. When faced with his own execution, he did not rage against his fate. He did not weep or beg for mercy. Instead, he calmly accepted his sentence, drank the hemlock, and died with dignity. Why? Because he understood that death is not evil. It is neither good nor bad. It is simply a fact of life. What matters is not how you die, but how you live. And Socrates chose to live and die as a Stoic. The Dichotomy of Control. The Stoics' compass. At the heart of Stoicism lies the dichotomy of control. This is the principle that divides the world into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. Your thoughts, your actions, your judgments, these are within your control. The weather, the opinions of others, the past, these are not. The Stoic warrior does not waste time on what they cannot control. They focus their energy on what they can. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who ruled Rome at the height of its power, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the Stoics' compass. It is the tool that guides them through the storm. When faced with adversity, the Stoic does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What can I do about it?" They do not lament the wind. They adjust their sails. Consider the story of Cato the Younger, the Roman senator who stood against Julius Caesar's tyranny. When Caesar's forces finally defeated him, Cato chose to take his own life rather than live under a dictator's rule. But even in death, Cato remained a Stoic. He did not act out of despair or fear. He acted out of principle. He chose to die on his own terms rather than live on someone else's. This is the Stoic's ultimate act of control: to choose how you respond, even when all else is taken from you. The discipline of desire, taming the inner beast. The Stoic warrior understands that desire is the root of suffering. To want what you cannot have is to chain yourself to disappointment. To crave external validation is to give others power over your happiness. The Stoic does not seek to eliminate desire. They seek to discipline it. They align their desires with what is within their control, and they let go of what is not. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher and advisor to Emperor Nero, wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How many of your desires are rooted in fantasy? How many of your fears are born of stories you tell yourself? The Stoic warrior does not indulge in such fantasies. They see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. They do not crave wealth, fame, or power. They crave virtue. For virtue is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. Consider the story of Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism. Before he became a philosopher, Zeno was a wealthy merchant. But one day, his ship sank, and he lost everything. Instead of despairing, Zeno saw this as an opportunity. He turned to philosophy and founded a school of thought that would endure for centuries. Zeno did not mourn what he had lost. He embraced what he had gained. He understood that true wealth is not measured in gold, but in wisdom. The art of negative visualization. Embracing the worst. The Stoic warrior does not shy away from suffering. They confront it head-on. They practice the art of negative visualization, imagining the worst-case scenario, not to dwell on it, but to prepare for it. By imagining the loss of what they hold dear, they learn to appreciate it more deeply. And by preparing for the worst, they rob it of its power to surprise them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil.'" This is not pessimism. This is realism. The Stoic warrior does not expect the world to be fair. They expect it to be chaotic, and they are ready for it. Consider the story of Epictetus, who was born a slave and endured countless hardships. Yet he did not let his circumstances define him. He said, "I must die. Must I then die lamenting? I must be put in chains. Must I then also lament? I must go into exile. Does any man then hinder me from going with smiles and cheerfulness and contentment?" Epictetus understood that suffering is inevitable, but misery is optional. The Stoic warrior does not avoid pain. They transcend it. The virtue of Amor Fati, loving your fate. The ultimate goal of the Stoic warrior is not to control their emotions, but to transcend them, to reach a state of apatheia, not apathy, but freedom from destructive passions. To achieve this, they practice Amor Fati, the love of fate. They do not merely accept what happens to them, they embrace it. They see every obstacle as an opportunity, every setback as a lesson, every loss as a chance to grow. Friedrich Nietzsche, though not a Stoic, captured this idea perfectly. "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." The Stoic warrior does not fight against fate. They dance with it. They understand that life is not something to be endured, but something to be lived. Consider the story of Marcus Aurelius, who ruled Rome during a time of war, plague, and political turmoil. Yet in his private writings, he expressed no bitterness or despair. Instead, he wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." For Marcus, every challenge was an opportunity to practice virtue. Every hardship was a chance to become stronger. This is the essence of Amor Fati, to turn every obstacle into fuel for your fire. The Stoic warrior's creed, a call to arms. The path of the Stoic warrior is not easy. It requires discipline, courage, and an unyielding commitment to self-mastery. But it is a path worth walking, for on this path you will find something far greater than happiness. You will find peace, not the peace of a quiet life, but the peace of a life well lived. The peace of knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength to endure. So I ask you, will you take up the mantle of the Stoic warrior? Will you master your emotions, tame your desires, and embrace your fate? Will you stand unshaken in the face of the storm? The choice is yours. But remember, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, choose wisely, for your thoughts will shape your destiny. This is the way of the Stoic. This is the path to emotional mastery. This is the art of living. And it begins with a single step. Take that step today. The world is waiting.